Hello everybody, straight down to business today. Today we are talking about being a flight instructor. I get a lot of questions about how did you study for a CFI, what are some tips, tricks, and I'm going to talk to you about that today. And I want to talk to you as well about a little bit about my philosophy of flight training and how it should be and how you should treat a student and whatever. So we're going to dive straight into it. Today I've got some things written down. I made a video like this before, talking about tips to pass your check ride. If you missed that, go and give that a watch. I'll link it for you. But I'll split this into 4 different sections. The first section of which, studying. How did I study for my CFI? Simply put, yeah, seriously, that's no joke. This is a binder of lesson plans that I created myself. Now, a lot of people buy lesson plans online that are already made. I didn't want to do that. And the reason for that is me actually going through making these lesson plans really got the knowledge into my head. I laid it all out in a way that makes sense to me. Yeah, just made a load of different lesson plans. For example, elevator trim stalls. That was one that I had to teach on my CFI check ride. Aeromedical factors, airspace, systems, weather theory, weather reports, all sorts of stuff like that. And it's tough to kind of show you how it's laid out, but for example, elevator trim stall, it's got all the information, all the plan on there, the kind of cover sheet for it, what we're going to do, the objective, the contents, the schedule, equipment required, instructor actions, student actions, completion standards and all that. And yeah, I made all of this on my own and it took forever, but I'm glad that I took the time to do it because it really helped get the knowledge into my head. I'm more like that. I prefer to make something myself because I can make things make sense to myself and write it down in a way that makes sense to me rather than buying a lesson plan which is already written by somebody else in a way that might make sense to them or not include information that I want in it, you know what I mean? And the beauty of this is that when you're teaching, you can take this with you. I mean, in this day and age, it's going to be on your iPad, really, isn't it? You can reference these things when you're actually teaching. It really, really helped me get it into my head and really helped prepare me for my check ride. Like I said, it did take forever, but I'm so thankful that I did it. So that's the main way that I studied for it. Another thing that I studied, and this is really important, I want to stress this as a new flight instructor, and flight instructors that are practicing will know this. Fundamentals of instructing, FOIs, it's kind of the dreaded thing about being a flight instructor. We're talking about all the psychology behind flight instructing, why students have certain reactions, student needs, defense mechanisms are a big one. I would really encourage you to take the FOIs seriously because it's not just a thing to, another test, another written test that you need to pass. It's actually stuff that you use in the real world. It really is. There's been so many times that I've been with a student and I've noticed defense mechanisms in them. And it goes back to having knowledge of the FOIs to identify that. It is stuff that you will use while you're practicing as a CFI. And I'm an acronym guy. I like acronyms. A lot of people don't like acronyms, and I don't really know why, but I really do like acronyms. One of the bigger ones is Dr. Cap RF, which is the defense mechanisms: denial, rationalization, compensation, aggression, projection, reaction formation, flight. List and describe the levels of learning. RUAC is the acronym: Row, Understanding, Application, and Correlation. And it helps you as a flight instructor and will definitely be used. And it will help you for the written exam as well. But just know that it's not to help you just pass a test. You will actually use the FOIs. So that's a big piece of advice that I've got for people. Take the FOIs seriously. You will be tested on it as well in your oral exam. Part of the FOIs is, critique and evaluation. How to conduct an effective critique. What are the different types of critique? Different teaching methods. What are the advantages and disadvantages of both? Like the lecture method. I've never been one to be a lecture guy. Whenever I was in school, if I was being lectured, it was like the worst day ever, nearly falling asleep, you know what I mean? Flight instructor characteristics and responsibilities. What's the characteristics of a good flight instructor? Planning instructional activities, so how to plan a lesson plan. How does the flight instructor act as a practical psychologist? The instructor must read the student's emotions and react in a positive way to bring positivity out of the student. So it's really, really important, the FOIs, and I made myself so many cheat sheets here for it. Like a lot of work went into me being a flight instructor. Not that you didn't know that already. Watching YouTube videos and watching me, the way that I operate. Really, a lot of it is based on the fact that I did what I was supposed to do when I was studying for it, and I studied to be the best that I can be, and I just built on it and built on it and built on it, and now here we are on a failing YouTube channel. Anyway, so yes, another part of the studying, getting comfortable from the right seat. You're doing the ground studying part, but also you need to fly because you need to get comfortable from the right seat. You're doing things with the other hands, you're kind of switching hands, which sometimes can be fun. It's a completely different feel. Wow! Especially when you're coming into landings, you're probably going to side load the aeroplane quite a bit. I know I did when I first started from the right seat, and it was so frustrating. Like, come on, man. You'll get there. What made sense to me from the right seat, finally made it click, was to every time that I came in for landing, I'd put the plane into a side slip on landing as if it was a crosswind. I don't know why that made sense, but when I started doing that, I started putting it on center line and not side loading the thing. But while you're studying, you need to maintain proficiency in the plane, or get proficiency in the plane from the right seat. So that's very, very important as well. Next section, your first lessons as a flight instructor. How's that going to look? Well, the first thing I've got written down here is you may feel a little bit of imposter syndrome. Somebody mentioned that fairly recently in a comment, that they had imposter syndrome as a new CFI, and I can tell you, even to this day, and I've been doing this for 9 years, going on 10 years, I still feel imposter syndrome. I still feel like I'm not good enough, and I feel like that's a good attitude to have. We've always got something to learn, and I am, like, knowledge-wise, nowhere near where I want to be, and I don't think I ever will be anywhere near that I want to be. And I think that spurs you on to make you a better CFI. So don't worry about that imposter syndrome, especially at first. You got through the CFI check ride, which in my opinion is the most difficult check ride to take. It certainly was for me. You got through that. So you've proved to yourself, you've proved to the FAA that you can be a CFI. Now you're going out and actually doing it. The thing that I kept telling myself when I was first getting into planes with students, teach the students the way that you know how to fly. You are basically, as a flight instructor, you are molding people into the best pilots that they can possibly be. And your flight instructors and your experiences and all that have molded you into the pilot that you are today. And that's all you're doing. You're just teaching a student the way that you know how to fly and how you want them to fly. They are basically an extension of you. So if they're flying the way that you want them to fly, they're going to be successful. That's as simple as I made it in my mind. I want them to mirror me. I want to be, without touching the controls, I still want to be flying the plane. And the way that I get them to do that is to teach them the way that I fly. I think that's going to go a long way to helping calm the nerves a little bit. So it's definitely a weird transition, but for me, it was fairly easy. And that's the way that I made it easy, by just telling myself, just teach them the way that I know. Let's talk about my philosophy as a flight instructor. I am really all about the student. You know, flight training is not about the flight instructor. The flight instructor is there to provide a service and provide a good service to the student. And it's as simple as that, or it should be as simple as that. Unfortunately, there's a lot of places, a lot of flight schools, a lot of flight instructors that don't make it about the student and make it about them. And it really infuriates me when I get the horror stories of people telling me how they've been treated by flight schools and instructors. And here's the thing, right? Flight instructors, a lot of them, they don't really want to be flight instructors. It's a way that people can get hours and make a bit of money to get to where they actually want to be, which is like an airline or a corporate job or whatever. There's weird people like myself that are a glutton for punishment, that get enjoyment out of helping people. Don't get me wrong, there's a desire to do other stuff as well, but there's not a lot of people like that out there, unfortunately. The fact of the matter is there's a lot of people that want to be flight instructors to get hours quickly. Now, here's my thing. There's nothing wrong with that at all. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. However, for the time that you are a flight instructor, you have to care. You have to give everything to being a flight instructor and giving everything to your students. I don't think there's any compromise on that. But what I've seen over the years is a real decline in the standard of pilot that is being produced. And I say that because of the people that I've flown with, coming out of places like ATP, L3. I've flown with people that have just a terrible base foundation of pilot skills. Stuff that I would deem to be absolutely unacceptable if I was training the people. So we need more people that care. You know, you don't have to love it. There's times where I don't even love it, but I give everything to the student to make sure the student is happy and progressing well and has a really good knowledge of things and is a safe, competent pilot. Training people for the real world as well. I just made a video recently taking Johnny V on his first instrument training flight into IMC on an ILS down to minimums. Was it perfect? No, but it's a real world situation, and it's a situation that he takes a massive, massive lesson from. You can't get better better than the real thing. Put yourself in the student's shoes. You've been a student, you've been paying flight schools, you've been paying your flight instructor. It's really expensive. You're paying a lot of money to fly an airplane. Let's make it fun. Let's make the flight worthwhile. It's not about the flight instructor, it's about the student. Let's get the most out of that session that we possibly can and pay the least amount for that session that we possibly can. Treating the students with respect. Because you've been in that position before. Put yourself back in the student pilot's shoes. What does that student need from you? The biggest thing that I do and philosophy is I let students make mistakes. I don't think there's any better learning experiences than when you make a mistake and you get pulled up on something. Like, we've all remembered a feeling when we were a student of not doing something correctly and being really annoyed that we didn't impress the instructor. You have to make those mistakes to get better. You got to get that drive in the student to make themselves better, you know? It's got to be a controlled situation. It's all got to be under control, but that's why you're there as a flight instructor. I feel like a flight instructor is there to instruct, to not always jump all over the controls when somebody makes a mistake. You have to coach them through it. Going back to that instrument video, I was coaching Johnny V down the whole way. And like I said, it wasn't perfect. We were off the localizer a little bit, but we got it back. I didn't jump on the controls to put him back onto the localizer. I was coaching him through with my words. I was instructing, which is what we are. We're instructors. Don't get me wrong, there'll be times where you do have to jump in and get on the controls to help out a situation, but where you can, let them get through it. Coach them through it. If I'm a student pilot and I get us out of a situation because of what I'm doing on the controls rather than what the instructor's doing on the controls, I'm going to take more from that than just letting the instructor do it. And obviously, if you're spinning at 500 feet, yeah, get on the controls. Otherwise, let the student do it. Coach them through. I let things go as far as I can let them go. Like, I feel like I've got a pretty good sense of how far I can let something go. I let it go to just before that limit before stepping in. And in all honesty, in my 9, nearly 10 years of doing this, there's been very, very few scenarios where I've had to like step in as a life-saving situation. Just be good. Just be good. Treat them with respect. Let them make mistakes. Have fun. Make it a fun environment. They're paying a lot of money. And finally, to finish off the video, I've got a little tips section for flight instructors for stuff. I mean, it's not everything. Firstly, endorsements. As a flight instructor, you are required to give students endorsements. And we have another folder, my endorsement folder. And what we have in here is not only endorsements in the form of stickers, but also what I call an endorsement tracker. Because as a CFI, we all know that you have to keep track of the endorsements that you give. For example, this guy, Ace, I've got his temporary airman certificate here from when he passed his private pilot check ride. But here are all the endorsements that I gave to Ace during his private pilot training. And it's all there, logged. But I've also got flight review endorsements in here because and IPCs and all that sort of stuff, spin training, high performance training and all that. It's all in this binder. I actually took this idea from a CFI seminar that was put on by the FISDO way back when. This is a good thing to have. It keeps everything neat. It keeps track of everything. And if you're asking where I got all the wording and things like that for the endorsements, it's Advisory Circular 6165. Have a look at the latest version of that advisory circular, and it's going to give you all of the verbiage or the verbiage that the FAA recommends for you to put on endorsements. That is all I have for us today. If you've enjoyed the video, please leave it a like. Get yourself subscribed to LewDix Aviation. If this is something that you recommend for flight instructors to do to be the best that they can be or to help study or whatever, get down in the comments and let us know. Let's have a conversation down there and let's help each other out. A couple of other things. If you want to join my Patreon to help support the channel, you can do. The link's in the description. You get exclusive perks and stuff like that. Go and check it out. You can get yourself a LewDix Aviation checklist. I've got plenty of models available on LewDixAviation.com. These are the best checklists that I've ever made and ever used, honestly. They sound biased, but it's just true. Rave reviews from people that have bought them, and trust me, tons of people have been buying these things. So get yourself one of these. Whoever buys this next Cessna 172 Romeo checklist is going to get the one that I just smacked on my head. So that's an added bonus. And one last thing, if you enjoy motorcycles, if you're a rider or whatever, go to my other channel, Lew-on-2. At the time of recording, I just hit 500 subscribers over there, and I want to get to 1,000 as quickly as possible. So if you can help me out with that, Lew-on-2, it'll be linked. Yeah, appreciate you. Cool. I love these little chats. So yeah, cheers. See you next time.